Our episode today commences in the realm of Gark, where Lisa Lark informs Haruto that she will dispatch a domestic this forenoon. She expresses gratitude for his escorting her this distance, then departs. Arya tells him that she will guide him through the residence. The action then shifts to when Haruto reaches Cecilia, who conveys her thanks for his patience and commences to inquire about his well-being. He informs her he hasn't been wounded, but requires repose. He further notes that they appear to have garnered notice here. Haruto proceeds, stating that Miss Lizelote has secured lodgings for them to remain for several days and guarantees her that all will be well, as he was en route with a royal personage from Batrum. Cecilia inquires as to whom it is, and he answers, Princess Flora and additionally Miss Rowena from the prominent families. She asks if they observed him while he was in their company, and he says it appears Princess Flora possesses keen perception, so she did detect something regarding his state, but he altered his hair hue, so everything ought to be satisfactory. Cecilia inquires if they should station a Mandy behind, and he states there are certain hazards, but he desires to cultivate a positive association with Miss Lise Loud. The champion of Galark is the individual he's seeking. It's a prudent notion to establish connections with the influential individuals in the kingdom. Cecilia concurs, but advises him not to lower his vigilance, as Lady Lezelad is a competent and renowned personality. She instructs him to inform her if she can assist him. Subsequently, Haruto inquires of her if he can convene with her the following day, and if she can educate him on the etiquette for the aristocratic palace. She consents to do so. The scene then moves to Gustav seated with Liza Loud, commending her servant Arya's execution, stating that he performed admirably. Liza Loud, however, questions if the champion should possess the requisite capability to reverse the circumstances. Gustav replies that, notwithstanding this, Haruto lacks genuine battle encounter. Lee Zealote counters, mentioning that his aptitude to wield the Minotaur blade was exceptionally potent. Gustav ponders if that potency originated from his own power, but Lizelote proposes that if Haruto wasn't harmonious with the sword, he wouldn't be able to unleash its might. They then speculate if his sacred equipment permits him to utilize such strength without practice, which appears perplexing. Gustav mentions that they are reluctant to place their valued champion in peril prematurely, so they resolve to have simulated combats with the knights. Lizala remarks that Haruto's initial battle proved considerably more arduous than anticipated, contemplating to herself that the Duke likely perceives the champion as merely an emblem of power at this juncture. The Duke then speaks, remarking that if Haruto hadn't appeared, they would have been at their wits' end. Haruto, with his Minotaur sword, vanquished adversaries in an instant. Without complete mastery over the bewitched blade, this wouldn't have been feasible. The Duke inquires of Lizelot what she believes of Haruto's skills, and she replies that while his swordsmanship is exceptional, his manner of speaking and behaving has an aristocratic demeanor, potentially concealing his true persona. She suspects he might originate from a deposed aristocratic lineage, and it's crucial for them to become more acquainted with him to forge a future relationship. She invites the Duke to meet with Haruto the following day, to which he assents, stating he will bring his personal knights along. He adds that since they're investigating the origin of the demons, there's no detriment in having additional individuals for security, particularly since peculiar occurrences continue to transpire, and there have been accounts of vanished adventurers. The scene shifts to two men and some women escorting them to an eatery. They guarantee them there's no necessity to fret about the finances since they've been there previously. These men, named Alphonse and Stuart, discuss the enigmatic Haruto who materialized unexpectedly. They ponder who he truly is. Their dialogue is interrupted by their tutor, who reprimands them for losing their composure. They recover their calm and proceed to the eatery, but discover that they cannot utilize the chamber they intended to because it is already occupied by other patrons. Subsequently, we observe Haruto and his companions who are reveling in the comfortable and warm bath in their quarters. Haruto suggests they slumber in the bed, but they perceive noises outside, recognizing that the aristocrats are present. Shiruto ventures out and offers apologies to the servant for the disruption. Alphonse and Stuart then identify him and state they belong to the group of knights he rescued earlier. But Haruto recollects who they are and expresses regret. They request to utilize the chamber, and Haruto consents as they are nearly finished dining. They invite him to join them, but he courteously declines, stating they've already consumed sufficiently and are still weary from the voyage. Alphonse mentions that while Haruto may be adept with a sword, he is still merely a regular individual, and his companion, Stuart, requested him not to bother them further. He disregarded him, and the server implored him to cease his disruptive conduct, cautioning that if he persisted in disturbing the guests, they would be compelled to take necessary actions. He also disregarded the server and mocked Haruto, stating that he didn't comprehend how to address aristocrats. Haruto responded, stating that regrettably, he was born into an ordinary household. He then informed Alphonse that he would take legal action against him for his impolite conduct. Alphonse retorted that he could do whatever he pleased and no one could impede him. This enraged Alphonse immensely, and he threatened to assault Haruto. But Haruto struck him and hurled him to the floor. Stuart pleaded with Haruto to leave him alone, but Haruto refused. Stuart then assaulted Haruto, who also struck him and cast him beside his friend. Next, we move to Liz, who learns of what transpired with Haruto and the haughty aristocrats. This incident makes her exceedingly wary around them. She then inquires about Haruto's location to convey apologies to him. The maid informs her that Haruto is at the inn. Liz requests her to prepare so they can proceed to him in the morning. Duke Yukon speaks of re-educating his son and requests Liz to apologize to Haruto on his behalf, mentioning that the Duke has placed his faith in him. We then move to Stuart and Alphonse with Duke Huhand, where the Duke expresses his profound disappointment in his son, despite having forewarned him previously. He informs them they are now disinherited from his fortune. They are astonished because they only fought with a common swordsman. The Duke responds that this ordinary person is far more proficient than them. He is a swordsman who eliminated 3 Minotaurs, something his son couldn't accomplish. Stuart suggests that if he possessed a cursed sword, he could easily do it, to which the Duke replies that he will grant them an opportunity to redeem themselves. He informs them that Liz will investigate the forest west of Amandi, and desires Alphonse to aid her as a frontline individual. He also mentions that Alphonse will be under house arrest in Rodania. Alphonse concurs, and the Duke first commands him to go apologize to Haruto. The following morning, we observe Haruto having breakfast with Cecilia and Aisha, where Haruto inquires of Cecilia why she doesn't reside with Aisha in the stone house so she can slumber comfortably. Cecilia replies that she doesn't desire to depart from him because she is extremely concerned about him. At that juncture, Liz arrives and presents herself to Aisha and Cecilia, who greet her warmly. Haruto then requests them to await him in the chamber. Afterwards, Liz speaks with Haruto, informing him that Duke Humant desires to apologize for what occurred, and if he has any requests, he should not hesitate to express them. Haruto requests Liz to compose a letter to guarantee that this matter is appropriately resolved, to which Liz agrees. She then invites him to the palace, stating they wish to invite him there as pledged, and that he should not hesitate to bring his companions along. Haruto expresses regret, stating they are still fatigued from the preceding night, and that he will come alone. He then proceeds to meet them at the palace. Haruto speaks with Duke Wante, stating that much hinges on whether he concurs with the proposal. Duke Wante assents and states that for the formal contract, he will entrust it to a third party, Lizlot. He also offers to assume responsibility for the offense as a father if Haruto wishes. Haruto accepts and agrees to grant the offenders an opportunity to apologize. Duke Yukon summons them and requests them to thank Haruto for his benevolent heart, and they apologize. However, we perceive that Alphonse is extremely irate about this. Subsequently, Haruto encounters Princess Flora and states it's a privilege to meet her again. The prince remarks that he heard Haruto encountered difficulties, and Lizlot states that their culinary artist is the finest. Perito replies that they attempted to prepare rice, although it's slightly dissimilar from what's made in his world, and they had to make numerous attempts to perfect it. The prince samples the rice and is impressed. Lislot inquires if he appreciates the food, and he praises it, stating it's remarkable. He shares that he commenced traveling when he was 11 years old after his parents perished, and that he typically travels alone. The princess asks why he travels alone, and he replies that it's because he desired to locate people who were close to his parents. Duke Umant then inquires if Haruto intends to settle somewhere and proposes a position in Blinroom, extolling his abilities and offering him a substantial salary. Haruto responds that it would be magnificent if the opportunity arises. The prince adds that they are promoting the emergence of a new hero, one with the caliber and potency to bring everything down. He says if Haruto attains that, he will be able to go to a desirable location. Haruto mentions that Gelark possesses a hero. Lislot responds that with the heavy pillar, it cannot be concealed, and the prince states they are about to proclaim the female hero of Gelark at the forthcoming event. Lislot mentions her name, Shiatsuki, who was summoned to their kingdom, and Haruto recollects her name because she is a friend of Miharu and was searching for them. Lislot then mentions that Prince Hiraki also has an offer and that they invited Haruto. He responds, stating it's somewhat irritating to be coupled with a counterfeit hero. It's simply a hero's obligation. Duke Yuhans, as a hero from Santasnella, will join the party. The scene transitions to the forest where knights are assembled. One knight complains about having to do this for the common folk, stating he's not powerless. He tells everyone that no one should lower their heads because they don't know when the Minotaur might emerge. Suddenly, a man materializes and states it's superfluous, as there are no demons remaining in the forest.